actually the official beginning of the 39th Keshe Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And once again, we'll meet with Mr. Keshe of the Keshe Foundation at the Spaceship Institute. And he promises to have lots of interesting things to speak about today. And he seems to have a list of all kinds of announcements and whatnot, including everything from correcting our understanding about some aspects of the theory and perhaps practice of the teachings that he proposes, and also perhaps some talk about the Pope that he mysteriously alludes to. So, well, without further ado, let's talk with Mr. Keshe and see what's going on there. Hopefully we can keep a good connection, and we'll see how it goes here. Okay, Mr. Keshe, are you there?
Good morning, good day, and yes, can you hear me? We are here. Wait 1 second, please.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, we hear you well.
Yes,
Yeah.
Good morning, good day, and a very nice day. Things are surprising here. Armand just walked in with another plate. He's ready to fly. He brought his flying saucers with him. Pardon? Pardon, yeah. Today, as usual on Thursdays, we try to cover every aspect of the work of the foundation, from teaching, development, and whatever is on the way or is to happen or has happened. One of the things which I have come to understand in the past few days here at the center, as now we become a very solid core, a small core but very active, and becoming more professional in the way of handling the things in respect to all aspects of the foundation by the knowledge seekers. I have come to understand what I assume to be a normal and natural is absolutely unnatural and not normal for a lot of people. What I try to explain this means. This means most of you or some of you have read the books and the papers and listened to most of the workshops and teachings. But what is strange is I realized last week and this week that nobody has understood a lot of things about actual structure of the neutron or motion of the entities in the universe. And consequently, a lot of things look mystical because the main fundamental part of what I call the theoretical part has never been understood, me assuming everybody has understood when they read the book. So from now on we try to go into these details that in the way enlighten us all. One of these two things is one we went through yesterday in the children's kids shop, and the other one is how, in speaking about end of life, for example, how life comes to an end with any entity. Life of a neutron comes to an end as one single entity and its division to proton and electron, and the same is the end of life of a man when the physicality as one ends and it divides into number of other neutrons and electrons. We call them in nuclear physics nuclear decay. In fact, there is no difference between the nuclear decay of an atom, a star, human body, or a neutron. So what has been interesting in past couple of weeks, we've been speaking about how, especially on the Chinese program, people ask more deeper question about the soul and when the soul leaves the body. It's the same condition as when the neutron divides into electron and a proton. In fact, what is important, which never been understood and partially we try to explain now that it becomes more clear, is how an entity like Newton divides, and in dividing we have to understand initially where its motion comes from. The principle of the motion, can you put the camera on please? The principle of the motion of any entity, we tried to explain yesterday, we are out, we are kicked out, is how, let's say, the sun, a proton, an electron, attains its motion. Because if we understand this, then we can extend to how the end comes and what's the process of an end or a division. In so many ways,
Do you want to show your video there, Mr. Keshe?
no,
Okay.
it's just that I was making a small note that it can be seen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that we put a camera that is correct. In so many ways, when you speak about the plasma, or the magnetic fields of the plasma, or combination of the plasmas, the whole structure of motion has totally different meaning. In the present life, we stick to the matter condition and we follow Newton's law. Newton understood the concept of the motion fully and what leads to another motion. We know the first, second law of Newton and we follow that, and this is more or less the basic knowledge of man about the motion. But Newton only could teach, understood the matter level of entities. As I said, plasma is a new technology. We don't even call it physics, we call it the plasma technology, science of plasma. In the world of plasma, be it the sun or combination of plasmas interaction, which is totally magnetic gravitational field, in a condition of freedom, which means they are free to follow the way and the path they are given or they have chosen. So what happens? In a star, like let's say our sun, we have a principle, the storage, the house, the main house of the magnetic fields. And as these magnetic fields open up, like an unwinding of a spring of a clock, the field spreads spherically across and boils to the top. It doesn't just appear at the top, it boils to the top. It just literally opens up and opens up till it gets to the top. And in this process, the field interacts with another fields which are slower, faster, or similar to, and this process creates attraction and repulsion. Attraction of the two fields which are in opposite polarity, we call it, which is two entries or two exits when the two magnetic fields interact. When the entry of one interacts with the exit of the other, this creates attraction, or what we call gravitation. And when by accident, as one is moving, now the end of the one which was entry interacts with the entry of the other one, so it becomes a repulsion. So one field at the same time is interacting with another field, but repulsing with another field on the other end of its line. But in a spherical shape is layers by layers. So it's very much like when you have an orange and then you have a peel on the top. The inner side, the inner part of the orange is an entity on its own and interacts with the magnetic field of the peel. One is moving and one is not moving. And this, or moving slower in a way compared to the center. And this repulsion of the two fields creates what we call magnetical. And the two attraction ends, we call it gravitational. So one entity, while is interacting with the other one to gravitate to is getting repulsed by the same end of its own entity, by the entry end, by another object. So one pulls and the other one pushes. So this creates a motion in the field. It's the same with the layers of the sun. The plasma gets interacted and attracted by one and another, and in this process it gets pulled and pushed, and this leads to the creation of the motion of the plasma. In fact, if you look at the structure, it's very simple. I tried to draw this so we can see it. It's very hard to see how the motion is done, but it's very easy to understand. So what happens in the sun, we have a layer. I'm going to come out a little bit. We have a layer of a plasma, which is going, for example, in its own way, but interacts with another layer. So this is going this way, and the other layer is going that way. So, but the other layer beyond it is going in this way too. So what happened? This, in respect to this, creates a gravity. And this, in respect to this, creates magnetical or repulsion. Notice that I use the term magnetical. Magnetical means repulsion or a field force which is created by interaction of two similar pole magnetic fields, where the other end is connected to attraction point, and that's how the motion created. These two are pushing this way, and these two are pulling. So you have the attraction inward, we call it gravitation or gravity, and the repulsion of these two we call magnetical. Why we call it magnetical? To show entity is not magnetic field, but it's a field from the interaction of two magnetic fields. And then when you have a gravity, gravitational fields, because it's usually in the center and it's close and it gravitates, means doesn't lose much field. So gravitational fields by nature are always usually more powerful than the magnetical fields, because gravitational fields brings all the fields, even from the other places, as they become to its strength, absorbs. But magnetical field spreads out and it gets weaker and weaker. So gravitational fields always stays stronger because it doesn't dissipate, doesn't spread out. And when you take the gravitational field away from the magnetical field strength, you get the mass of the entity. But this mass, as we have seen, has created its own motion. Now it behaves as a plasma. And this plasma is very simple. It has again itself an entry point and an exit point. And what happens? Now this entity has to interact with another plasma of the same, with the same entity, entry and exit. And another one, which is by accident could have an exit and an entry. So now you see the two interact, create gravity, and the two interact and create magnetical. Now in the solar system we speak about layers of the plasmas of different strength interacting. And it's millions of layers, and they're all at different strength. That's why they're in different layers. As the strength of the magnetical gravitational field of a layer reduces, the stronger push it out. So the principal matter stays in the center, what we call the powerful one. And the layer by layer, they become weaker in gravitational and magnetic field strength, till at the point where both gravitational and magnetic field come to a balance. And at that point of balance, what we call 1G is the surface and the physical boundary of the entity. Now you have on this side of it G, gravity increasing, and on this side of it, magnetical field increasing to a point. And when the magnetical and gravitational field in some point become to the point that the gravity becomes to the point of near very little compared to the magnetical, this becomes the atmosphere, or what we call Coulomb's barrier of the entity. This is important. This has never been understood. This is how we saw the motion created, because one field follows the other one. It's the same with this. In a layer, in a plasma, in the reactors you create, you have, these are ganses of copper oxide, and these are ganses of CO2. So they try, the weaker gets attracted by or gets influenced by the stronger, and if you have a Cu again, the same thing happens. So a plasma in your reactors does not need motion. It's already interactive, like the sun. But the most important point is how gravitational fields and magnetical fields dictate the life of the entity. This is absolutely vital and it's not understood. This is what we call nuclear decay. This is what we call the supernova in a bigger size for a star. This is what we call end of the man's life. In a nuclear decay, we get one neutron dividing into two more plasmas, one plasma. In a body of a man, when the physical part detaches from the emotional part, the body goes to decay and divides to thousands and millions of other atoms. So man divides to more because he has more of. But it's a matter-GANS state, so it ends up with matter-GANS state. In the solar system, when the sun explodes and it cannot do, it becomes what we call supernova. And it becomes smaller and smaller particles, and the sun divides itself to two new suns. But we do not usually see or want to see what is the next sun, because we always look at the point of entry. So there is no difference between the point of what I call conversion from one entity to another. Man, when it dies, it does not end. It just converts and reaches new level to live in another dimension. So, in fact, how this comes about is very, very simple. As we spoke, a plasma has both gravitational and magnetical field, which this gravitational magnetical field, due to variation in different strength in the plasma of different fields, in interaction with the gravitational magnetic field strength, which what we call magnetical, creates what we call a pulse. Because all the fields are not the same, the stronger are trying to catch up with the weaker, and the weaker with the stronger outside, this creates what we call magnetical pulse. So the entity has a heartbeat, be it the life of the man, be it the life of the planet, be it the life of a star, be it the life of a solar system, a galaxy, or a universe. As we feel the beat of our body because of the gravitational magnetic pulse, which is collectively we call a heartbeat, the same thing happens with a neutron. Neutron has a heartbeat too. Earth has a heartbeat. Once man goes beyond space, we'll see it. We see the heartbeat of the stars, and this is how it's created. As its their gravitational magnetic field tries to connect with magnetical fields, this interaction of different strength fields, it creates a motion. It creates a heartbeat. This heartbeat, which is expands and contracts, plus the motion, which is the fields inside the plasma are creating themselves, leads to the rotation of the plasma. So this is for the first time we understand how the motion of a plasma, a star, a neutron starts. The universe rotates in the same principle, but with a lot of galaxies and a lot of planets inside it. And these galaxies and planets, if the plasma physicists understand, this is what they call the God particles. So we are all part of the God particles. Because man looks at the plasma of a proton and he calls it God particles. When it manifests itself as matter in a galaxy, we call it stars and planets. So we are all God particles and we all get affected by the attributes of God. Now, it comes when this process ends. And why a neutron or a body of a man or a star divides. The reality of the end or division comes when, as we said, gravitational magnetic field has the maximum more power, more stronger gravitational field than the magnetical. But an entity like an electron or a proton lives in an environment which is active, which means continuously at the boundary this element interacts with other entity, other atoms, other protons, other electrons. So it gives fields and it receives fields. And when it enters a point where it can influence its fields, it's stronger than the other entities, so it gives more. We've seen this with the plasma test of 129 Tesla. The reason we saw 129 Tesla was because the other reactors in the lab were demanding, so the field was giving, and so we absorbed high resolution of directional flow of plasma in Teslas. Now, when so much is given continuously, it reaches a point where the gravitational magnetic field strength reaches magnetical field strength. And literally what it is, if you look at it, I'll try to explain it, is one is pulling the other one. This one is gravitational field, my hand on the left, if I can come in and see it. And this one is the magnetical. And when the fields become into balance, there is nothing to hold the entity together. And when, for example, gravitational field or magnetical field passes each other when there is a balance, there is no transparency. And if they are in balance in respect to the fields of their environment, you become dissolved. It's like a sugar in a hot water. The plasma opens up, but still has a center which has its integrity together. And so this opening up suddenly leads to a drop in the field strength in different ways, and the neutron splits into proton and electron. So the division or the demise, the end of the life of a man or electron or a star comes when gravitational magnetic fields and magnetical magnetic fields, they come and cross each other, when there is no difference between the two. And not being in difference with the two, you don't have a surface. The surface disappears. The physical entity, where we spoke at the beginning as the surface of the entity, becomes open and equal to its environment, so it opens up. A solid sugar in a hot water and a solid sugar in a cold water. When you put a solid sugar in the hot water, it just opens up because its strength is equal to the strength of the heat of the water, so it opens up, it dissolves. This is exactly what happens with neutron. So it opens up, but at the same time the fields inside are strong enough, they try to collect and come together, so it leads to the division of the neutron. The same thing happens with the sun. The same thing happens when the emotional magnetic field of the man with physical magnetic field of the man interface, and there is none left, or they disconnect because now there is no connection with the physicality in being the same strength, and that's when there comes the end of the life and division into new lives. So this is important to understand, and it's vital, and this is why a lot of you are running into problem with running your reactors or understanding how you create energy. The energy, what you call, is gravitational magnetical field. And if you start building systems which absorbs or can operate with gravitational and magnetic fields in what we call plasma condition, you will have much more powerful systems and lighting and energy production than your electron, because now you have to bring everything to a weakest point, electron, and you miss all the strong points on the above it. All the stronger magnetic fields are missed. So we work in what we call electrical current, which is the weakest. Man had to understand, so now we understand. Now we have to develop systems which work with proton, what we call the main plasma. This I was explaining yesterday to knowledge seekers. When, for example, you put 4 atoms of uranium together, you come nearly to 900 and something. This is the number of protons and neutrons in the center. But if you put all the electrons of this together, it does not even make 1 proton. And most of the energy of the electrons, when you become a molecule in a GANS state, become the energy which is used for bringing the whole thing together. So electrons in a plasma technology does not, especially when you go to a GANS state, consider as much, because they're so small, and all their fields is used for amalgamation and separation and division. So in the nuclear state, when the gravitational magnetic fields and gravitational, what we call magnetical fields balance out or become equal in the strength, in comparison to the environment which they are in, leads them to open up. And that opening up sets up the division. And the minute some residual are left, the entity becomes unbalanced compared to environment, and it comes back together, and then you get the proton. And then what is left comes together again and becomes an electron. In supernovas, a star explodes because it cannot hold the balance between magnetical and gravitational fields, and it opens up into the plasma of itself, into the plasma of this galaxy. The same thing happens with the galaxies. When they cannot hold the magnetical gravitational field, they open up in the universe. And the same thing happens to universes. So the theory of Big Bang does not exist. And a lot of people, especially religious people, now they try to confirm the theory of the Big Bang to be correct, because now they know their own structures on the rocky ground. Because now we understand the essence of the creation, and we don't need communication with the people who are agents. The intelligence of man has reached the level of the prophet of the past. So we don't need agents for the prophet of the past. Now the man has the intelligence to understand the same. This does not mean that the prophet of the past did not understand. They understood, but they could not explain, as the man wasn't intelligent. Now with the new science and developments, man is intelligent. At least a portion of men are intelligent enough to spread, to explain to the others, that the rest come to the same point. This comes to a point of teaching about the cores. Yesterday we were sitting here, and as you know, Arman is trying to get the system moving, and it's not moving the way it does. And I was explaining to him the reason why he will not fly. The reason why he will not reach that point. Because as a developer and a maker of the reactors in space, we do not absorb any fields from our environment, hardly any, especially when you're going at high speeds. So the reactors are not there just for the motion. The reactors are the essence of the creation, where the reactors as matter produce the plasma of the free plasma, and that free plasma is the source of life for every entity, every living things on board. So the people who develop reactors for space technology, they become and they have to understand how correct, just, and be like the creator. Because this plasma, free plasma, gives the energy for food, for clothing, for life, for every material man needs in space. The responsibility of the future operator reactor developers is not just creating the reactor, but knowing that what they create in conjunction with the others become the source of life. They become and they behave, and what they produce in these reactors become the source of life for the others. And now people understand why I always said bless your reactors before you start. Because in blessing, and if your intentions are correct, you give the essence of life to the other entities which use the system to survive in the space. And I keep on telling to knowledge seekers, read the last 2-3 paragraphs of the paper about motion. And if you understand that, you understand the whole essence of creation and why we are here and what it happens. We will not fly till the man understands flight is a physical point from man's point of view. The whole structure is very simple. Life lives within another life, and in living gives life to the one which gave life to it. The reactors in the space program, in the spaceship, as much as they collect the fields to make the free plasma condition for transfer to what you need, bread, water, air to breathe, they collect what is in their environment that they can add to their own strength, that they can add to the free plasma. Now you understand why it says, I made man the image of myself. Because it's a cycle of process of receiving to be able to give. And the more you give, the more you receive to give. Because you feed yourself. So a stupid man shoots himself in the leg, as I say, and goes on a marathon, knowing he's lost. He's a loser before he starts. And this is a process of the creation at every level. This is what we explained yesterday in children's program. When you kill a man, then you have to eat the man. When you kill a man, and it's become the habit of the man, if they understand people what it means, now you create a division. This division becomes warm, the birds eat it, becomes fertilizer, oil, the grass grows, the cow eats it, and then so you eat the same man you killed. Would you like to eat another man, or would you like to be eaten by another man? This is what we say, the time has come for world peace. When the man realizes there is no need for war because what you kill you have to eat, you put a man in front of everyone and say, now eat. And see how they react. There used to be a program in the state where they used to get a very fat people and they say, okay, you're 200 kilo overweight, and they used to put 200 kilogram of pure fat on another side of the scale. So this is you. And used to come home, how bad it is. I think we have to start putting the carcass of man on the streets and let the people eat it, and then they understand what's the use of killing to eat what you kill. And this is what I was explaining to earlier this morning. We do not need to eat to end a life, to live. With the new technology we have in the space, we absorb the fields which allows us to sustain space life. Eating is a habit of man because he can prove his power. But now with this technology, we all have the same power. The knowledge will be spread in a way that, as I always said, the man in Africa, in the back jungles of South Africa, will have the same knowledge, the same technology in his hand, as does a king in the palaces. And that's what I say, and the people don't understand, and more I start realizing, why should one be over the other? Unless you're a king when you can serve, not a king that they feed me. The seat of kingship is finished because man has become intelligent, that we are all equal. And this is part of the process of this technology. We moved in very slowly, but now we take over to show man world peace and how it can be achieved. And this is how the Keshe Foundation stands. We don't talk, now we are acting. As a lot of you know who are close to the Keshe Foundation, as of this week, the production of the CO2 has moved to China. And we dropped the prices so radically that every petrol station and every aircraft will give you, every airliners will give you a unit free to clean up what it is, what you messed up. But in this process, what we call global warming CO2 cleanup, they give you a gift. They give you the plasma CO2, that now it becomes the source of energy for you, that you don't burn the fuel. So in so many ways we have put an end to the life of oil industry. Very sneaky moving in, but they trying to make it a crisis. With the crisis they have shot themselves in the foot. Now the CO2 kits are free all over the world, will be given. And as I have agreed with the manufacturers, Keshe Foundation will not receive or hardly any income from the profits of the CO2 kits. The instruction is very clear to our partners in China, in Japan and in Italy, that they can make profit as much as they like. But what is given to us as donation, we do not accept funds unless we need it for certain projects. Instead, the money will be spent, our share, to produce units which are given freely to the nations and the people who cannot afford that 5 or 10 euro dollars per unit. That will bring the man in Africa, by receiving the system freely, to the same level as a man sitting in Europe. That he doesn't need to cross the waters to end his life trying to change his life, to improve his life, because he has enough to eat, he'll have enough energy to survive, and what we call the Oasis kits are on the motion to be produced in mass. You have the heat, you have the motion, you have the shield, and you have everything which you need. The water you absorb through the system from the air becomes the water you drink, and through it you energize it the way you need. You receive the energy. No child will go hungry very soon. Rick spoke about the Pope. Let me explain to you what has happened, and some of you can observe. Our message was very clear. We went to Rome in June. We handed the World Peace Treaty and our condition for meeting of the world religions, for the World Religion Peace Conference. It was received, and it was read, it was understood, and as the servants to the Son, they carry the order of the Father. The Pope is around the world, he's received it firsthand, and he's trying to unite the religions. We know this week he's been to Turkey to meet with the other sects of the Christianity, plus the heads of Islamic world. They think they do, and they are doing things, but they act and carry out the will of God. And we hear his own word, His Holiness the Pope, he says his time is a few months, because they know the process has started. And when the man of Vatican understand, and now understood and acting upon, there'll be no kings. So you can see how very slowly every workshop has spread the word further and further, and now we see how nations come together to understand all the religions are one. And it's very interesting, in one link we received this week about the meeting in Syria by the American delegation which attended the meeting, in Syria for whatever extreme religions, whatever they call it, in attendance of Iranian officials as well. Because the moderation and equal understanding does not bring what we call radicalism. And the radicalism in Middle East has come not through the religion, but in one religion trying to enforce his way through finances by killing the others. And now the ones which they see themselves in danger have gathered to themselves and they're trying to kill them, they forgot what they are there for. So now you see the pattern. The division. Now if a man kills another man, he has to eat the man. So the Pope, if he destroys another religion, his own religion is destroyed. So now we're coming together. It's the same as the death of a proton, electron, a death or division, not the death of a man or a star. Humanity is becoming to realize there is a need for unification, otherwise I myself am in danger. I have to eat myself. And we don't need to do things. Our order is our command. And we see Pope is very active in past few months since June, trying to unify in any manner or shape the religions. So he understood the message he received in writing on the 16th of June. Now we come to another point. The Keshe Foundation has started producing their materials, CO2 kits, in Far East. And very soon it'll be done in Italy, but actually it'll be produced in Albania and will take over the central production into Europe through Italian organizations. We make, and we already have a very good figure of what is going to be the price for the systems. It's just finalizing, packaging it and putting it out by our people, or should say by our people as a Keshe Foundation worldwide in Hong Kong or in China. They take the lead within the next week, 2 weeks, and we follow what they put in the market. We make it accessible to every man on this planet to be able to have a CO2 kit that it gives them the access to the free energy what the man has yearned for centuries. And we start teaching. There is no need to go out to find wood, and there's no need to pay $120 per barrel for what is free comes out of the earth. So the CO2 kits become the source of the energy for mankind from now on. Because it's a plasma, and in it, in fact, every little particle you see in there is one sun. How would you like to collect the energy of the sun in what, for what use, and how you align it? At the same time, in the next week, most probably 2 weeks, I started it yesterday, a new materials will be provided by the Keshe Foundation. We have brought the prices so low that we don't allow any competition to come in for lower prices, because now we sit at the source. For a reason, this is anyone anywhere in the world wants to produce, they have to meet, so they cannot be margin, and they cannot be margins to destroy the others. But at the same time, whatever is produced and whatever comes to the foundation in any shape or form will go back in surplus back to the nations who bought it. So we don't create a Vatican. You create your own areas. We don't go in the boundary of nationalities anymore. Each area which you buy more system, they receive back whatever is left for them to develop their schools and the universities and teachings and looking after the old. We do not create another Vatican. I mean, we don't create another Saudi Arabia. Every nation, every man will receive directly from the beginning whatever is residual backing plus the labor which has gone into it. The structure is set and we are on the move. The biggest problem was to put the first CO2 boxes out. And now you will see the true opposition to the foundation starts very soon. Because the people who sold the trees for greenhouse effect back to be planted in Amazon, which were never put in, and they call it the CO2 dividend, now they can't rob anymore. So they have to object. We've seen them on the interface, we've seen them on the internet. Because now the robbing is over for them. CO2, global warming, and then selling plants which don't exist was a very good gimmick. And now they're not going to lose their point of power because they made so much money out of fooling people. Now it's going back to themselves. In January onwards, the new medical system will be freely available, or in a freely available is in mass production that you can buy. The first systems to be released are fibromyalgia system. You can purchase a unit on a fibromyalgia basis at a cost which is affordable by everyone. Because people with a fibromyalgia for years have suffered, they don't have the resources to support huge incomes to pay for huge systems. And there is no cure by the pharmaceutical. We have found a process that it can help and it can bring them back to life to enjoy their lives. And we have had more or less 90% success, and the 10% we don't have is the people who cheated themselves. So medical units are becoming like you can buy it off the shelf or through the Keshe Foundation and other organizations around the world from January onwards. A new medical system for pain and the release of pains in the muscles and the joints, which is a lot of people suffer with, are and have started yesterday. We are putting the last touches in the design today, tomorrow, and the manufacturing will start in China in the coming days. These all now be handled by the shop section of the Keshe Foundation through Hong Kong, because they develop it and they can add to it. In the coming days or months, we will release the gravitational system for motion. If you've been on the website or the live stream, you have seen that we have managed to change the weight to motion and positioning. And we have, in a very subtle way, are reaching the way you saw the weights increase or decrease on the weight load scale. Now we have achieved for the first time major breakthrough in the world of science. With 4 reactors with less than maybe 5 or 10 milligram of CO2 and copper oxide, we are changing the position of the system. In fact, if it's on the live stream, you can already see it. The blue bottom line of the blue bracket on next to the reactors is where the system was after descending by a few centimeters, for maybe 3, 4, 5 centimeters since the day before, and we put the red arrow sticking to the plate. And you can see it's already about 4 or 5 centimeter drop. So for the first time, the taboo of positioning gravitational magnetic field in respect to the Earth, which gives us the flight condition, has broken. These pictures you see live on the live stream are historical. They are as more important, maybe more important at the time when in 1844 Bell called and said hello, or when the man created the first flight. Now we have shown you do not need to burn fuel to attain position. As you've seen in the other tests that we went through, the system is set to gain weight. When initially in the original system we lost weight by half a kilo and we gained 3 kilograms. This is due to the setting. Now in the coming time we change the setting to go up. But you have to learn how to land first before you can fly, that when you land safely. So what you see on the live stream now, it is in fact a breakthrough in the science world. For the first time we can move and stay hold and keep position away from the Earth without burning any fuel, by matching Earth through its own magnetic field and matching. It is very important that we understand what these pictures stand for. What you see is more or less as important as the day when the Wright brothers took the first flight and became registered. The day when the man could fly a few meters away from the earth with motors. Now you see the position of the field, the position of matter in respect to matter. And now you see we have dropped by nearly 4 centimeters since yesterday to 3 o'clock, because the fields are gathering slower and slowly, and it's pulling towards the earth. And if you look at the monitor on the left, we are not creating huge fields. Everything is in milli-Tesla, and that's how it should be, because earth surface level is micro. We are more powerful, but it's spread in a different way. That's why it stands that way. And if you look at the figures X and Z, in fact, what X puts in, because it's a direction of flow environment fields, Z, which is the field absorbed by the reactor, pulls in, is a slightly, one is 14.7 I think, and the other one is 14.9. That little extra, as the field from the environment is gathered and fed into the center, to the core, is what is left in the residue in the environment of the, between the core and the environment. And then when they come in to the core, the residual fields of the plasma of the ganses in the core gets added, and it goes to 19. And in a north direction, which means it's pulling itself to the ground. And now you physically see how on Earth a planet or a plasma operates. What comes in gets added, what we always said, within the center of plasma magnetic fields, and then it leaves with a slightly higher level. Enters in at 14, nearly 15, and leaves around about 19. That extra few millitesla is the plasma of the residual plasma of the interactions of all the plasma of the ganses in the core. So now with this little demonstration and with the data, everything which has been explained in the books is getting confirmed. The fields enter from entry point, and then they add to themselves because of a strength from whatever is left inside the core, because it's compacted, and they leave entry plus addition inside adds to 19. And the system is total balance in its environment. It's been kept at that level more or less for past 48 hours, 72 hours. And this is the behavior. It takes as it needs. If we introduce another reactor, which is what I call a sucker reactor, which wants to take, you will see huge field changes in the time to come. But the system, we wanted to see stability, and we see how stable it is. We don't see those violent going up and high pulses. The high pulses was because the environment of the other reactors in the other lab were demanding, so it was supplying to guarantee it stays within. The system became the God, the creator. It was feeding, equal to everyone. I give, you take what you like. In this room is balance, and that's why I was brought here to show this. You got to understand the structure, and then through the structure you can understand the effects. So there is a lot of things which is happening one by one, and now everything is coming together. There has been a lot of emails and questions about putting the ganses of the plasmas you create in the freezer and they don't freeze. This is another part which I had to explain, and I explained here to the knowledge seekers, and myself overlooked it last time when I was here. When you produce ganses and you with the water and you put it in the freezer, it freezes because it hasn't established itself. It's like when you put the matter in your mouth. When you put your ganses in the reactors to run, and you put the reactor outside or in the freezer, you'll find that they will not freeze. Because the water has become a GANS, not a water. In open tubs where you leave the container in the freezer and it freezes, the ice connects, but if you touch the GANS area, it's still soft jellyish. Is because you have not changed the characteristics of the water or the liquid into a GANS state magnetic field flow. And that's why your GANS, when you put in the freezer, freezes. If, as Vince told us in Canada, at minus 29, 30 in his shop, still stays liquid, stays not solid. Because in that sphere and in that condition, the property of the water changes to a magnetic field transfer condition at the level of the GANS, and it loses properties as matter, even though it still carries the state of matter. Yes, now we see the video which we saw last night in children's teaching. Now, in so many ways, this is another heartbeat, but in two different cups. I saw this last night and I thought, it's very nice. If you look, you can see without anything, the fields are moving clockwise and anti-clockwise. This is, I said yesterday, it's like two lovers. You see how the field of one affects the other and how will change back to front. This is part of understanding the whole structure. You see, it's moving. It always moves. This is what we call magnetical field impulse and motion. And now we've seen with the others who've taken pictures and becomes very, very common. And now, if you take this a step further in the future, we explain, you understand how and where to avoid high motion magnetic fields in the universe when you're traveling. These little cups to you is just something moving, but for me who understands or tries to understand the totality, this is actually the structure in a space where you want to avoid or getting into to be feel the strengthened to gain higher speed. So you collect only the principal matter strength, not others. So you add without increasing anything to your mass. This is another one picture which is on, if you look on the top, how the motion is created. And this is how the systems are. There's some magnetic field flow. Now, this is why I say plasma is not a physics. Plasma is plasma. Plasma technology has its own understanding and it stands on its own. First is the fields, second is plasma, third is physics, and then fourth, chemistry, and then biology. Because accumulation of more of entities. Are there any questions? Ah, this is the heartbeat. This is a magnetic field. And you see how it is. And this is done by one field trying to influence the other, and it creates. And then slowly, if you become strong enough, this becomes the beginning of a star. This is how stars are generated in the universe. You see, just the speed increases and the rotation, now it creates like a galaxy.
I just like
Mr.
to
Keshe, can you check the mic, please?
My mic is on.
Yeah, it's just it's making that
scratching
dual
noises.
noise again. That's squeaking.
Yeah. The two mic, because we have a recording microphone, so they're up against each other. Now you see how,
Thank you.
fact, how universe is created, how galaxies are created. If you put all these dots as a star, you'll see how they come together as the heartbeat, what we call magnetical fields, a magrav fields is established. Every creature in the universe has its own heartbeat. We have to understand it because that heartbeat gives a conditional positioning.
I just wanted to mention that these pictures, the one you see now, for example, is a time exposure of the GANS setup over several hours, and that's reduced down to several second or to half a minute or minute type videos. So the pulse itself on some of these rotations, for example, in this rotation video that I show, the pulses are like 10 to 15 minutes cycles while it rotates and stops and rotates and stops. These are 10 to 15 minutes cycles. It's sped up to see the effect more easily. So heartbeats can be long periods of time, not just 60 per second.
Some heartbeats are billions, millions of years. The bigger the entity, the slower the heartbeat. Even the motion. If you look at the structure of the plasma of a proton and electron, the smaller the entity, the more fields it needs to catch up with of the higher strength, and that's why you have a higher speed electron around the proton. It's the same process. Are there any questions?
I just wanted to let people know that the GANS freezing in the video that I did, that the 5 milliliters of water in the little vial is from the reactor, just so people are aware of that.
Yes, this is something I just realized. I said to Armin, we forgot something. And there's so much going on that you have to be aware and always alert in everything. So we are setting a new, this is what is the beauty of this process of teaching? Is that the people are showing the effects and teaching each other. And this is how the pattern has become. There are no patterns for knowledge of God. And this is what's bothering a lot of people. The knowledge is free, we all share it freely, and then we go to the next step. You have to look, it says, GANS volume after frozen is less. Because, It says after frozen, it says GANS volume after frozen. Try to understand and explain to us why. I think we saw this video yesterday for the first time, animation in the children's program. You see how the fields come and how the heartbeat starts and how they feel the strengthen. It's a very nice animation because it shows how they feel and where they go. But in fact, if you don't use central nanomaterial, you'll get a different effect.
Jeff is working on another video, I understand, with the GANS reactors instead of the nano-coated pin reactor.
Then that will be what we see with the reactor with Vince, hopefully. He's going to show us magic by next week. We'll see how it comes and how the plasma will show their interaction in respect to each other and the fields show their interaction with each other.
So, Mr. Keshe, on that note, I was...
Carry on.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, explain. We see your little balls everywhere now on the screen.
I seen on the live stream that there was the aluminum reactors underneath of the star formation, and now you're descending. So in my mind, that is telling me that the free plasma is being extended towards the Earth, so you're descending. So if you do the opposite in terms of the positioning of the lower and the upper reactor, then you should be ascending. Is that correct?
I think you're too clever. But on the other hand, we dictate the position. The reason we put aluminium core underneath is, as you know, Dr. Elia is with us. She's a valuable part of the foundation. She's a first full-time member of the foundation, including the others outside which we support. And she's very methodical, and she has understood the concept of the body of the man, the working of the body of the man, and the magrav system. So we were sitting in the other room, and she was in the room where the reactors were yesterday. We were working till about 1, 2 o'clock the night before I was trying to teach her about the influence of the thoughts and control of the reactors. So the next day, yesterday, she went in the room on her own, trying to understand and see and compare the operation of the reactors in respect to the environment she was in, and compare it to the environment of the body of the man. And then she explained to me what she understood. She said there is something missing in the structure. She explained to me what she understood. I said to her, you're the only one, because you understand the other part, sees these things. But if I do it, becomes magic. Then her idea, her understanding through the medical part, through the chakra line, she said, you have to put a tongue in there. You have to put, because in the work of the chakras, you need to connect, and you put a tongue to the roof of the mouth to close the circuit. This needs closing. I said, you understood. And she said, you have to put that aluminium one on the floor underneath to create the pool. I said, it's been there, nobody asked, so I'm not doing it because they don't understand them, because it's magic show. And in a way, we were descending from the day before, but I allowed 24 hours for any changes in elasticity. And from the time we put the thing underneath, the reactor aluminium, we start seeing different operation, which is much more visible, but it's a continuation of what we had the day before. Because if you put the striped blue, yellow board next to it, and we have lined it, you see the bottom of the pole has moved. So the move was in progress. But it was in a way to show in what Dr. Elia understood from the respect to the whole structure. And she's correct, and she was correct in so many ways.
There's an important point there.
Pardon?
There's an important point there. I think the important point is that with that type of setup and with that type of free plasma in the center, when you arrange it in that kind of formation, you're extending, but also showing which way it'll go by which orientation the free plasma is in.
Yes, this is exactly, if you remember what Vince was showing us in his, what I call 2-3 weeks ago. I referred it to Da Vinci drawings, if you remember.
Yeah, well, that was Lucian.
Yeah, Lucian, yeah, sorry about that. So now you've seen what he wanted to show, where he's sitting. The knowledge is gathering slowly but profoundly very sound. And this is what you've seen. This is a replication, but different people understand it different way. The reactor wasn't out, it was sitting in the background, so the direction of the flow was away from it. And now we brought it underneath near, and then we can hang it from the top. Marco is working on a very beautiful design, hopefully today, tomorrow will be finished. And for the first time you see totally something new in the structure of the setting of the plasmas. He is mimicking what do you call it? A molecule. A universal system, but like a molecule. It's already set, it's just tying it up to the motors. He most probably videos it and you will see it. Now that we understood, like you, the way you show your reactors now, we have brought the operation of the mini reactors into operation, and our colleagues in China will start, they understand fully, to develop the what we call 1 centimeter and below reactors for medical application. what we are planning, hopefully with our, in conjunction with the Keshe Foundation development in China and yeah, is it better? Keshe Foundation China and Italy and Japan, and hopefully soon we'll see collaboration with Iran and America. Then collectively, our condition of collaboration with these people is very simple. You're going to make a lot of money for developing and commercializing. And with that, we'll give a lot of things to everyone to become equal. But it has to be free knowledge. Everybody can go in other person's lab and to see what they are doing and how they are doing it and how they can improve it. And strange enough, this condition of is mine, I have to keep secret, and patents gone through the window. Our Chinese colleagues know, this week we put the Chinese groups together, accidentally they're in the same city, and the supply of raw material we introduced from here, they're nearly in the same city. And everything is open. And then the Italians tell us what they think, and the Chinese think what they think, and then next week we have a presentation and operation with the Japanese in their laboratory, which is very unusual. All these people know, and it's interesting enough, all these people know that when they open their Skype's labs to us, is watched by all the security services around the world, because they're all sitting on online. A Skype is like an open portal. So NASA scientists are seeing it, the Russian scientists are seeing it, the Chinese scientists are all watching what is getting developed by the manufacturers. These are not scientists, these are manufacturers of the technology which is to come, that they can benefit their nations and humanity. And it's very, very strange. And I said to the knowledge seekers last week, I achieved in what I set to do, to make patents obsolete and knowledge free. And it's beautiful how it's coming up, and you'll see more. The benefit of it goes to the humanity. The Italian manufacturers, data, what they see as a problem, or they see they developed. Our Chinese colleagues, they see it. Now we have a Chinese group, which is the power generator cable transmissions with the high power. Now we have the Italians who are involved in what you call turbine power generators for governments, in conjunction with the Chinese of the same. Now they sit on the same table. And now, no patents, everything open, and they will work together to achieve, and they have already started working to achieve. As you know, we are expecting an American delegation here within the next 48 hours, 72 hours. These are of the high-ranking caliber, some of them, within the government of the United States, or influential enough to make and to be heard. We are open the door exactly to them as the Japanese came with the Fukushima problem and they went back, and now we have, they received everything. And we have asked directly, we expect when the Americans arrive, we'll be informed at the time of arrival that the Iranian officials are present in the meeting too. This is a scientific, not a political. We put the hand of peace to the Americans, and we've seen the result 2 weeks ago. And now we put the hands of knowledge between the Americans and the Iranians, and it'll stay the same. Hopefully within the next 2 hours while we are here, you will see one of the, what I call the outrunners of the American team arriving, and you all know who he is. He should have landed in the next 20 minutes. And if he arrives here before 12 o'clock, you speak to him today, or you speak with him tomorrow in the other workshop. And we have asked our delegations when they arrive to inform us who and how and what they are doing in the national security. They don't want to be known, it's their problem. Iranians officials will be invited to be present. You spoke to the Chinese manufacturers who are actually Canadian and Iranian, working with the Chinese manufacturers in China last week. And the week before you spoke with the Italian manufacturers. And strange enough, maybe next Thursday, we will speak with our Japanese collaboration. And hopefully, if we can establish a line with Africa, within the next week or so before Christmas, we'll receive the first-hand reports about E. coli bacteria work which is done in Africa on behalf of the Keshe Foundation. They are proud to be able to serve. Any other question?
Hi, Mr. Keshe. I have a question. Hello to everybody.
Yes?
In the workshop 36, I think, where Vince showed his reactor, I noticed that he showed the reactor out of the star system. So is it possible that we take a single reactor and we rotate it with necessary speed so the reactor comes independent of the motor and it continue the work independently? I mean, if this can be
Yeah,
done out of star system,
let me
single
answer
reactor.
you. Let me answer you. The Iranian reactor we showed with the gas loading is of that type.
I mean, it can be done with the GANS reactor.
With the GANS reactors, you can achieve that much more powerful. But there is a piece missing, and none of you has seen it yet, so it's not my job to teach it. It means your level of understanding has to come a little bit higher, then I'll show you how.
And
The knowledge seekers, let me explain. The knowledge seekers, without knowing, are heading in that way. I think Arman is about to build it, but he doesn't know it.
I want to ask if we achieve this condition, now this reactor has his own field according to the elements of the GANS inside. Is this in some way dangerous for human body? Can we go and
No,
touch this reactor?
no. When you see the problem with the nuclear industry is radiation. In the plasma technology, you don't have that problem. Because very much is like the frequency of the body of the man.
This is not what I mean. I mean in the earlier workshop when we were building the star system, I think somebody...
No. I know exactly what you're talking about. No, because it's like what you receive. You don't only receive the magnetic field of the sun. On Earth, we leave plasmatic magnetical gravitational fields of the universe of different strength. We only take what our body needs because our body is attuned to certain field strength. If other people, while you put this point on the table, there's something very important to explain and it has to be registered. In Keshe Foundation, we don't tell nobody to eat or consume or touch, and we always told use gloves in respect of the GANS and nanomaterials. We advise the testing of the use of the GANS for health reasons to the scientists, not the public. And if it comes to the point that the public try to do things without the scientists putting it out and they try it themselves, it's their own responsibility. This is not a teaching that it targets certain housewives. 90% of the teaching here is for the highest level scientific organizations. When we speak that you can take the CO2 with the tip of your finger and put in your mouth and you can solve the problem with, let's say, Ebola or E. coli, is for the scientists who are in these fields to test. And we've seen the response through Harvard University and the rest. Do not go and start thinking, the people who are thinking now of pharmaceuticals are in danger, my share is going to go drop like a rocket, I have to start making criminal condition out of Keshe Foundation. You can go to hell. You cannot stop the progress of man to develop and free themselves from the boundaries that you put down. People are free to test anything they like. But We teach here to the scientific world, so it has to be tested by the scientific world. If you are supposed to put in papers in 10 years, it means you give time for pharmaceuticals to rob and kill for another 10 years. You put the knowledge out within hours, within days. Different organizations around the world listen to this program, test it, confirm it, and make it available to humanity. I see people saying we're going to report you to the military in Italy. Military Italy works with us. They are fully aware of what we are doing. Our labs are open. National securities are fully aware of what we do. The knowledge seekers have seen them when they come to look at the lab. We are so transparent that we do not allow nothing to touch the foundation. If you test, like the way you make the reactors for what you produce or the vegetables you eat, and you report to us, you have decided to add to the knowledge of man, and you put your life in line to serve mankind. That's your problem. That's your beauty. But if those who see these, and I see these emails coming, you know, we're going to sue you, you're going to go to prison. First of all, it's a natural product. We haven't produced. And secondly, you produce it yourselves. How come you produce weed and smoke it and you never report it to the police because it gives you a high to kick you as a, what you call mentally disordered person? Now you can do the same with CO2, with the GANS and the rest, because if you find a solution for mankind, I'm sure you'll be here to report why the gas doesn't freeze and how it gives its effect to lift and other things. We are very open. Those who try to make criminality out of the knowledge and the science which is really about man, just register names, put them down as criminal, check their background, you find out they're well paid by pharmaceuticals, Swiss bank accounts. We have traced a few of them and we keep a record of. In time we release them.
Yes, Mr.
So,
Keshe, I'm not asking my question in that reason.
no,
Just,
let me explain to you. We had to make this clear. You raised the point, I had to discuss something because it's been risen, and we had to answer it. Okay, repeat your question.
I was asking this question because if I want to build a reactor, I have to know what I'm dealing with. Like when I start a reactor, I want to know if I can go here
If you're building a reactor, do not touch the material. And if you're creating a gravitational magnetic field, we always say stand off it, don't be near it. Secondly, you're not producing radioactive materials. A unit which has gone to Australia has been confiscated by the customs and officers of the Australian, what do you call it, government. And they're trying to find out how, because they've been told this is nuclear, but they can't find any nuclear. Because this is the way plasma is released in your body every day. If a CO2 is a plasma you're afraid of, stop breathing, because you're putting it into air every day, millions of times. The material you
what I meant when a
produce,
reactor,
the
what I
material you
meant is when a
produce is
reactor
a natural process. Pardon?
Yes, what I meant when the reactor reached the point that is independent of the motor and we stop the motor, I meant is it safe in that point that we go near that reactor and we can do whatever we want with it without opening it?
First of all, you cannot open a reactor when it's operating. Secondly, it's your decision. I'm not there to know how much you loaded and what the strength you've loaded. This is why three-dimensional detectors are coming into operation in a plasma condition. And you cannot, you only receive what is in the level of your body and no more. And when you reach a point, you cannot go any further. Getting cancer using dynamic reactors is, as you would like to say, you sit in the middle of the nuclear reactor. It doesn't work that way. It's plasmatic. It takes and gives, and it finds balance, it stays in that position. If you start vanishing, then maybe you created the balance field that you become invisible. The plasmatic magnetic fields are a balanced environment detection. That's why you put them in 4s or use in 5s or 8s, because you create that balanced condition environment in the reactor. As you know, when we are testing the single, what do you call it, units, reactors using nuclear material in Iran, due to the radiation within the table level which I worked, I ended up with a liver and pancreas cancer. But again, understanding the work of the plasma, it took me 2 years to stop the process. The lesions of the damage are still can be seen on my body. So we are on the frontiers of the knowledge, and we have to even find out how the human body reacts to certain things. It's like when I asked our Chinese colleagues if they have eaten the vegetables or have given it to anybody to eat the vegetables, they grew, because we could see the difference. In time, people will start eating them. We have to see what comes. Or the problem is that the scientific world does not have the tools to see the real changes in these vegetables, because they only look at the matter. But this is a GANS and it has different properties. We've seen this with the Italian nuclear report, which they tested. Biologically and materialistic, chemically, the material shows itself not to be, but Raman spectroscopy, infrared spectroscopy tells you the material is what it's supposed to be. And new tools of detection is needed, and we have initiated ourselves in conjunction with our Italian colleagues. The Keshe Foundation most probably within the next 2 months will move from the Sensano, because for us to be able to develop the speed with the way we like in system control and the materials, we are moving close to the Italian organizations which are in these fields. We can meet on a daily basis. This is what is to come once we shut down for Christmas holidays. We move to see if, and again depends on a lot of things with the governments where we move to. New tools of measurement has to come into operation, because at the moment we only have measurements in respect to electron, not the plasma of electron. We see the surface, we don't see the magnetosphere. And now we have to develop technology which we measure the magnetosphere or a magrav sphere. Because not only what comes out affects us as we understood up to now as radiation, but in the background there is something pulling in as gravitational too. And that's why we don't have solutions for most of the diseases, because we always looked at what is outwardly, we don't look what is inwardly in this process. We have a very, very good connections, and now we're establishing more and more with scientific and people who are of the world of science, who understand the change and they want to be part of the change. And they have the knowledge and the finances to develop it. You will see in China, people are joining together. We just put in, the more they come, the more we put together. All the, if you look, all the what do you call it, knowledge seekers, children, and the health has already been transcribed, and it's gone. We have to get it done, and it's gone to New Zealand to be put in. Everybody around the world are doing what they can, making animation, making books, translations, and everything else possible. This technology does not belong to the Keshe Foundation, it belongs to humanity. Then it's you who have to make the change, not us. And it's you who's got to understand the new concepts and live by it. The biggest problem has been that we knew it, but we ignored it. Now we are aware of it, we are doing something about it. There is no time to blame to make money, because even the courts will have no more jobs to do, because when you are just, you don't do anything wrong, the judges are the first ones on the unemployment list. And Arman loves this. Any other question?
I do have a question that I received via email, and I'll read it. It is, can you address to the SSI the possibility of using the Armadea spiral for feeling with different GANSes, which will allow the acceleration and deceleration of the rotation body on the needs of moving directions? I
Can
think
you
he's trying
repeat that?
to explain. Yeah, I think he's trying to explain about using a spiral for feeling to be able to communicate with the free plasma. That's just what it says to me.
In a way, you have to make the line of contact. Otherwise, you hear so much and you feel so much that you don't know which way is yours and which way is not yours.
Mr. Keshe, I'm putting that spiral, that particular Armadea spiral on the live stream there. You can see it's got multiple arms on it. It actually reminds me a little bit of what you showed in the children's workshop with the spiral arms coming off the pieces of nano-coated copper wire that you showed them interacting.
But not only that, that's what the sun does in our environment too, in our solar system.
But you got to go back to the book number 3. You see it there too. We published this figure. It's I don't know which page, but it's in book number 3.
Is this the one you mean? I'll put it on the live stream here.
Book number 2.
Figure 14E?
Yeah, something like that. We have that picture.
I think you have it memorized.
So this is how it is. But in fact, this is not very correct either. This is more, I mean, it took Dirk Laurenson's ages to draw this. And in a way, if you look at this picture, we put the matter to man's level of the eye observation or detection at the very lowest, because you have submatter conditions, which the still life and entity lives in these regions. This is what it is, but even this is not correct, because this is more, it has to be in like rings and it just expands. The little what you see like little nerves, these are when the systems weaken. So every dot you see, for example, in these fields, when the two matters interact and they become the strength, those, sorry, go back to the other picture if you can please, from the book. Yeah, if you see those little like pink and black and blue spots, these are all God particles. So we knew about the God particles in a very easy way. And if you expand it, this is like a center of a galaxy, planets and the stars. So, and if you go into universe, it's galaxies on their own. And depends what is in that thing and what fields interact. These are beautiful things which simply explains a lot. And it's taken Dirk Laurensson a long time to do it. I sat there seeing him suffering, trying to explain this. And we had to redo part of the pictures because of this picture. We found out what we drawn will not bring everything in, so he went back to the book from the beginning and changed the pictures to be done again.
Well, we do have an animator now that might be able to pick up on what you're saying and try to animate it in a way that's more exact to the way you think it should be. So if you can, anytime you can give more exact directions on images like that, we appreciate it, because we sort of debrief it afterwards and try to come up with different animations or different ways of viewing it with other images. So thank you for your feedback.
No, but this is what it is. This is what we got to go back to the books. I think we even got to start going through the books to explain. I was going through the paper of the motion, which was released. And I was explaining this to Caroline and Dr. Elia a few days ago. And they said, why do you write it in such a complicated way that people don't? Why don't you write it straight what it means? I said, writing is a habit of a man. Man believes in writing and sound. What I write, what I think, is already heard by the other creatures of the universe, because they need to be taught too. And this is exactly what it is, what is written in the book. You see it. If you look at this page, this image is the attribute of God. It spreads equal to all creatures on the universe. Change it to a plasma, change it to a universe, or to a unicos. It's all the same, because when the fields enter this plasma, it affects every field and entity in this plasma. And that's the beauty attribute of God. And then you understand how motion is and why we want to elevate the soul of the man or creatures on this planet, that they reach and come out of this animal behavior. It's one of the hardest missions ever taken on, changing this 7 billion. And it needs a lot of, what do you call it, the strength and knowing what you do is correct. It's very hard. I was explaining to some politicians recently, it's very hard to survive in a cage with 7 billion lions. All hungry.
Yeah.
So this is the mission impossible, but we'll win. What's the next question?
We do have a question.
Lucian, maybe it's your time.
Oh God, he's there. I call Lucian a
I
spokesman.
seen him on mute.
Yeah, I call Lucian a spokesman for a human race.
No, I think I'm your translator in English language.
That's all right. I call my brother the human race barometer, so that's all right.
I have two questions for today. The first one related to the previous workshop. As you remember, we discussed that when the CO2 GANS loses the water, you said that we have GANS in matter state. So my first question will be, that will be still a plasma? Because if is something like a...
It's a realignment.
It's a nanomaterial on a surface.
No, what
Okay,
it is, because, let me explain. Oxygen has the ability to realign with the gravitational magnetic field of the Earth, because of its structure of having 8 electrons. Not because of the structure of its, what do you call it, its environment. The 8 protons and neutrons inside created balance. And that balance can match more or less to any fields in the structure. Because in one sense they are diamond structure, and in one sense they are, what do you call it, conductor. And so it tunes, it's literally tuning. And so when you have a copper oxide, when you have a CO2, look at the figures. You have CuO, you have CO2, you have H2O, and the common denominator in all 3 of them is oxygen. So you don't GANS the water, you realign the oxygen level so it behaves as. And that's why you get this behavior from the what do you call it, from the water in a GANS state. Because it's between, if you look at like in nanomaterials, you have a gap and you have material. Now in these gaps, you have the properties of the oxygen. So it links up, it becomes part of, but it's not a GANS. It's exactly like in our lungs and in our body. It's a gap distance accommodator link up. If you didn't have 70-80% water in your body, it would have been as solid as a rock. And water, it creates the gap distance because of the oxygen denominator. If you look at the amino acid, you still have the same again. This is what I call why oxygen is magnetical property of the entity on this planet, because it's a common link in gravitational magnetic field. So in the human body, when you have an amino acid, the connection of the communication lies with the carbon, but holding The amino acid as a molecular structure stays with the oxygen. Carbon has 6 electrons. Look at the oxygen. That's why when you twist carbon with its structure, it affects its property. But you cannot do that with oxygen, because when you twist it, you have 2 6. It behaves like a chameleon. It looks to be matter, but it plays a GANS game, because it can come close enough to give that effect to it. But then it stays as a communicator. So the GANS, the water in the GANS stays as a GANS. It stays as a water, but is just because it plays a chameleon, it doesn't become the environment it's in, but its part becomes connected to it.
So you are trying to say that the CO2 GANS becomes CO2 nanomaterial, something like that?
No, CO2 GANS with the water behaves like a GANS, but is not GANS. Due to realignment of the gravitational magnetic field, it behaves to be, but it is not matter. It loses the matter property. It behaves as a plasma, but it keeps its electrons, and the electrons do not merge into the center. You got to understand the two hats you wear. A GANS is when you have all the magnetic gravitational field, the strength of all the protons and electrons into one basket. So nobody knows whose electron, whose proton. It's just one thing. Matter is you still have, but they have separated their hats. And in water, because of its property, gives you the image. It's what I call the fool, the joker. It gives you the feel I'm a GANS, but on the other hand, because of the free electrons, it still keeps the structure behavior of the matter. It's just accidental here. Just by coincidence that water, but it's not coincident, but because of the magnetic field, it positions itself all the time. Look at the copper oxide, iron oxide. We take oxygen for a lot of things because it's the link. It can make link internally that it allows separation in the way the environment requires it. It stays as a matter in the matter environment, behaves as a GANS in the GANS environment, even though it's still in the water. It's the way what would you like to call the first orbit electrons merge into the second boundary electron ring, and they make it 8 and complete. So the element behaves as is one plasma. The energy given to, if you're a nuclear physicist, atomic physicist, you understand what I'm talking about. And that's how the change comes, that the oxygen behaves as 2. When it's in the matter state, the 2 electrons in the first orbit keep their position, and you have 6 outside. When it comes in a GANS state, when plasmatic magnetic fields are there, the 2 electrons move into the ring number 2, or because the 6 outside cannot move in. So now you have 8 electrons, you have a what you call inert gas behavior. Because there is no more to come in. But from outside, it looks still like a water, but in fact, the behavior of a inert gas in a solid state, which what we call a GANS condition. It's I don't usually go into the details of these things in explaining, because a lot of people don't understand nuclear structure. But that's exactly what happens. This, when you put oxygen in a nano-GANS condition, you give enough energy, or you extract enough energy, or you push the boundary of the energy which is released by the GANS material as copper, which is in the GANS state, to the oxygen, that the field strength of the two electrons in the orbit, in the first orbit, increases enough that becomes in the minimum boundary level of the second orbit. So it behaves to be one of them. So you create an inner GANS in a ring with 6 electrons, and you will behave like an inert gas. Your orbit numbers are complete. And then the 8 electrons behave as one in respect to the center proton nucleus and neutron nucleus. There is something in nuclear physics I never explained, but it's part of the structure I always work with. A lot of scientists have never understood the structure of the proton and electron. Electrons and protons and neutrons all have their own magnetic gravitational field balance strength. What does this mean? Protons, for example, in the center of a nucleus, create their own connection line, irrespective of the neutrons. And the neutrons collect their own central system. And then in balance between two, they compromise how and what more or less is needed for the whole thing to stay together, that the weaker partner, which is protons, can be kept. And that's why we see more neutrons in the heavier elements, accommodating that we can keep the structure. So to keep the structure, we need electrons, and we need the protons to keep the integrity. So to keep the protons, that the electrons protect us like a defense shield technology. Electron is a defense system for the proton. First of all, absorbs any fields which come in. Secondly, it absorbs any field which is released by the proton and is fed back to it to guarantee survival. So the mechanism, central mechanism of the protons in a nucleus is independent of the central mechanism of the neutrons. We just call them neutrons and protons, a dot on the table. This is why, because nuclear physicists never understood the system. So, and then it allows the accommodation of the extra energies, neutrons, into the system that can guarantee the position of the protons, that the protons can guarantee their partner, which is electrons, to be kept and the entity to be intact. It's like military and the police force protecting the same nation. And then you have your boundaries that you have to protect. And then you have your people, you call them, what do you call it, border guard. There's no difference. Neutrons interact with neutrons in the nucleus of matter. Protons interact with protons and in conjunction because of their link with the electrons. Neutrons have nothing to do with the operation of the electrons. So these have to accommodate themselves, and that's why the size of the nucleus grows bigger than what it should be. The theoretical physicists have brought such a mess into the nuclear industry that no scientist can put right, because images are wrong. You have to explain. I do this with the scientists who come here, and they immediately understand how much they have misunderstood even nuclear physicists. You put a dot and you put neutron, electron. If you put a dot, if you put a circle as proton, put a certain distance between the electron and proton, and then do it three-dimensional. It's a huge ball, because they are not only moving, we explain the motion, they still create their own fields and separation. It's a nano layers of plasmas inside a certain position. If you understand the gap and the matter in the nano layer, you have the same composition in the nucleus when you have protons and neutrons. So then you understand in an atomic structure, in nuclear structure, that the protons and electrons have their own structure, but they accommodate, because the job of neutron is to guarantee the integrity of the total plasma. And the integrity is to make sure your borderlines are safe. And that's your electrons. And electrons are controlled, their fields and position and the speed is controlled by the proton. So neutrons accommodate the protons to be able to protect the whole structure. When you get a positron, you look at the structure of the fields and number of the neutrons and the position of neutrons, not the electrons, because they create the extra fields which enforces the condition of the rotation on the gravitational magnetic field of the plasma of the electron. In book number 2 or whatever, I've explained why electron becomes positron. If, as I always say, what do you call it, a meteorite has hit Venus to go clockwise, which is the false theory of the Earth being the center of the universe, then there should be a lot of electrons hitting a lot of electrons that we get positrons. Positrons only created when the gravitational magnetic field and then the strength of the neutron in the center, because they are in balance with the proton, the only extra field strength comes from the neutron, increases enough that forces the connection between itself and the electron. Now, electron is connected with two entities, a neutron and a proton. So now the field strength of the two enforces, if the position is right, for electrons to change in multiple directions. Somebody's got a microphone open. Yeah? So you understand exactly why. So water does not become GANS, but because of the influence of the 8 neutrons in the center, in receiving more energy from the plasma of the GANSes of the copper, creates a condition that brings the two bandwidth of the electrons orbits near to each other, that now the electrons in the boundary of the oxygen behave as one, and now the actual parameters, dimensions of the oxygen becomes not the plasma of the nucleus, but the plasma of the orbit of the rings of the electrons. So it shows itself, behaves itself as a GANS. And that's why when you take it out in a spherical direction, it becomes closed circuit. It does not behave as a GANS, it becomes matter, because now it has a field interaction with outside. Where in a reactor, everything is centralized and all the fields connect up and it behaves as a GANS, because now we create that condition. This is a deep science of nuclear technology. And as you know, I'm a nuclear physicist, I understand these, and that's how I change and structure. But when the scientists are ready, we explain it more, because even nuclear physicists, when they listen to these explanations, they understand how wrong the whole nuclear industry has been.
Mr. Keshe, there's a relevant question in the live stream. It might be relevant, I'm not sure. Do you get separation of oxygen and the other elements in the GANS when the field in the reactor gets to a plasma?
No, it's just amalgamation. If you, there's a technology I have explained to the knowledge seekers here. We cannot go into it, but in so many ways, in a deep way, when you look at, for example, what you call UFOs, what we call the flying objects using a space program or a star formation, you see sudden rapid motion and you say, oh, they disappear. As we have shown in the test here, we increase our rotation to 8,000 RPM, we increase our rotation to 6,000 RPM. The new reactors can even go, what you call it, much faster, the motors Arman has brought in. And we see there is no change in the GANS, so we bring it back down to around about 2000, which gives us the maximum absorption or separation absorption to create a what do you call it, free plasma. So the speed of the rotation, physical rotation, is irrelevant. It's the speed of the plasma internally which dictates what the position shall be, and it is. And then if you understand this, then the answer is that your question is answered. Any other question?
There is another question I'd like to bring
Did
up.
we lose you, Lucian?
Pardon?
Did Lucian
just-
get his question
go ahead.
answered or no?
I don't know. Let's ask him.
Are you satisfied with an
Okay.
answer to your question, Lucian, or not?
He's on mute.
Okay. Well, he's busy. Well, he's busy muting.
He must be running to the telephone.
Yeah, right.
I think Las Almas needs answers very quick. Experiment is pending.
Okay, and while he's busy muting, let's go to this other question, which is interesting. On the live stream again by Stephen. Is it needed to fix the reactors in the star formation on a fixed frame, or is it good to move in the star formation position with independent flying reactors that join together and change position dynamically? I think you were talking about this earlier, Mr. Keshe.
We are building a system like this in the next few days, hopefully. Marco has built a new system which we have fixed the position, but we are rotating the whole structure of the molecule. What this means is very simple. What Marco is nearly finished, huh? You can test it in the next coming days. He's trying to attach it to a motor. What it is, we have a ball, a small ball. He has put a plate in the middle, and he has positioned 3 reactors in the star formation on the top, and 1 somewhere outside in the same plate. So now what he's going to do is to rotate this ball as a whole, as a full star formation. The other thing which we're trying to do is to make 4 balls of different fillings. I try to get a picture right that we see it. So one have 1 shot of CO2, second one has 2, 3 and 4. So we create 4 different fields. We try to vacuum it and rotate it freely. They're not connected. And see how they behave in the environment of the vacuum and how they position themselves. We have transparent balls now that we can do these things. And we see the behavior. And you see the videos of it coming up in the coming days, in the coming weeks, or after the holidays.
We have that other video I'll put on now with the rotating magnets in the clear spheres. We showed that in the kids' workshop
yesterday.
That might be interesting too to make a comment on.
Okay. Yes, this is what we saw yesterday, and the comments on it was go back to the children program. Maybe we can make some people to go and see the children programs because there's more information there.
I think you give clues in all the different workshops, and if we were to watch all of the workshops, we might get all the clues, but people might miss something if they miss the kids' workshop. I'll tell you, that's where some important clues come out, I think.
If you look, the top reactor, the one between the fingers, is dictating the rotation of the other 3. And in a way, the other 3 have no say. If you increase the influence of the upper reactor, you dictate the position of the free plasma. But this is to be understood. There is a very, very fundamental change. Arman is going to test this with Marco. In the coming time, we are going for a 3 mixture GANS systems. which allows us certain things which we have not seen, and it will be a new evolution in the knowledge. In this system, as you see, when the ball is put in, the three are in balance. They stand there because they have found the balance field. When you introduce the principal reactor on the top, and the speed of motion dictates the speed of the rotation of the others. This is something for reactor controllers to understand. And it brings a lot. Listen to the children's program yesterday, we explained this. You see, when the other one comes in, but the motion here is enforced by the finger, where the motion in a plasma reactor in a star system is dictated by the fields. This is beautiful. This is one of the nice ones I've seen. There you see it's loading. And you see when he interacts, the free plasma where it sits.
This video is hot off the press. It just came out this evening, and we're showing it for the first time to get some feedback and criticism. It's a lovely,
there's no
beautiful
criticism.
picture.
It's perfect. In a way, if you keep your base steady, the fields rotate. I tell you, this is what is the beauty. People are sharing knowledge freely. And you can see how beautiful this thing comes. If you fix the 3 reactors, now you see the rotation. This is what we did yesterday. The principal reactor yesterday, we just changed the direction of rotation of it. And to see the influence of it, how it does and the way it comes up. That light in the center, if you understand, is very much the light of the soul of the man. The 4 pieces are the amino acid, and collective amino acids in conjunction with the connections of the matter creates the soul of the man.
And people will have to watch the health workshop to catch what Elia explained on the how the parts of the body correspond to the reactor formation.
If you look in the skies, even though you look at it as 2-dimensional, you see a lot of star formation. Even in respect to the galaxies from one point or the other. The galaxies and the universes all position themselves in a position that what they give, they get something back from the others that we share, and we all stay the same. Thou shalt not steal. These animations are getting nicer and nicer every time. It's beautiful. Any other question?
I think Lucian went to find a phone and dropped off of the GoTo meeting, so he's not here to ask or answer any more questions. Is there any other questions in GoTo meeting, though? JF, did you have any questions?
We are gradually reaching the 2 to 3 hours instead of 3 and 4 hours. They're becoming more knowledgeable.
That's true. We're just over 2 hours now, and it is much more manageable for everybody concerned, but we do like to make sure that the questions are answered for anyone that has them. I think I do have a couple more questions here. Just a second. I'll see what I have. One got answered already. Oh, yes. Okay, there's a question on what's called the flower of life. Are you familiar with the flower of life
Is this
symbol?
children? No?
No, this is more for adults, and it's the question...
I've seen this.
Right.
I've seen.
the question is from Michael, and he asks, from a plasmatic perspective, what is the flower of life, and the Vesica Pisces, which is or Pisces, I think, which shows the creation of light with the intersection of these two fields, these what appear to be plasmatic fields. He says, are these symbolic representations of how information is geometrically encoded in the plasmatic or electrogravitic nature of the universe? So basically, he's asking, does that have some significance, I guess?
Yes, it has a huge significance. In time, man will understand. This is very much the way the pyramids are set up. The space, you look at the structure of a plasma, in a way on the upper surface of the earth we say is done. But it's not aligned, it's mixture, it's a depth. It's a depth of the interaction between the fields. And so, for example, the light on earth is not created on one thin layer. It's very much created the way you see it here. Because there are stronger fields which penetrate further. By the time they lose some of their energy, they become in strength equal to gravitational magnetic field of the earth, that they create light. So this, what you see here as a light zone, this is exactly what happens in a universal system. And you can see these in the coming time with your reactors. There's no coating. This is exactly for the first time you see the true, what do you call it, two-dimensional effect of the two fields. The ones which are in the center, more to the center, these are the ones, the fields which are much stronger when they arrive the what we call the upper atmosphere, which what the black lines are, and then they take time to slow down because they have to interact to lose some of their fields again to create more lights, and then there's a boundary that everything changes to light, which can be changed. In the book number 1, I think book number 2, I call it translucent light. That's why we see in the dark, we can see the space. But that's a bigger field. But this is exactly how, there is no code. This is the reality of the interaction of the fields. They don't interact on the top and that's it. There are faster lights, what you call it, plasmas, which they have to interact with the, let's say, the nitrogen, the oxygen, the other rubbish in the space, and then they reach the planet. And then at that level, there is strength that is visible to us. Let me explain something. Talking about this, I meant to speak about it and I forgot. We spoke about, I think with the Spanish group, regarding the CO2. And we spoke with the Chinese regarding the absorption of the CO2 in Beijing and whatever. The CO2 kits, which are, and the absorption of CO2, will not only affect you extract the CO2, but you, by changing the dynamics of the environment, by extracting the major part out of this equation, you do not allow the particles, other elements in the space of the city or whatever, to link up. So what's going to happen with rapid development and increased use of the CO2 boxes or whatever the governments do, the balloon collapses. So what happens, as you see here with the circle in the lights, yellow. So the environment will not have the CO2 for other materials to attach themselves to create the pollution the way we see in major cities. With this, will create a new problem. Now that you've taken the balloon away, whatever is on top of the balloon will land on the ground. So what we have a problem, this I explained in the Spanish section. Go back to it and please listen to it. The cleanup of the CO2 brings a huge new crisis for us in a way of air management, air control, pollution control. Because we take the CO2s out, what was on the back saddle of the CO2 is not there, so these elements, heavy elements, will land on the ground. Earth ground pollution, water pollution will be consequences of cleaning up the CO2. So the process has to be agreed how much we do and the way we do it. Because now our lungs, our breathing, our food has to adapt to a new condition of the rest rubbish in the air. But unfortunately we bring the rubbish on the ground and into the water. So the process of the extraction of the what I call elements in the space of the earth in its atmosphere has to be managed very rapidly by governments. The problem is not the CO2 anymore. The problem is the minute elements which sit in the air, which is the back saddling on top of the CO2. Once you take the CO2 out, these materials will land on Earth, on the clothing, on the waters we drink. So what you're happy not to breathe, now you're gonna eat and drink. So one of the reasons we try to do this plasma technology in a magrav state is to make magnets for these materials. What we see is in the air pollution that we can extract these before they land. The process has to go very rapid. These things will develop in the next few weeks and months. So CO2 absorption, what you call global warming, will become a global disaster if it's not done properly, because these contaminated materials which are in the space now, we breathe partially or block the lights in the cities. Now by taking the CO2 will land in the water and on the ground, in our lungs. Because they were up there, now they are lower. So respiratory problems will be huge if the whole management of the cleaning of the water and the air is not done correctly. In time, one of the roadmaps of the future for 2015 is collective environmental cleanup by all the nations. We've seen what Fukushima has done to us. It's not just the material which is over, let's say, Mexico City. This material will be soon over Milan city because of the flow of dynamic of the materials and the airs. So we have to collect collectively in a correct manner that we don't create new disasters and new health problems. As part of the roadmap of 2015, we announced it the way we did with the World Peace Treaty and the meeting of the world ambassadors. This needs a very clean cut direction how we do, but we have to, now that the CO2's become a run of the mill, we expect to produce between 1 to 10 million CO2s per month to be distributed, and the Keshe Foundation in China is gearing up for that within the next 12 months. We've seen the response in what we put up, and now we're reducing the price in the coming weeks and months and making available worldwide development. Initially we see about 10 million to 20 million sometimes a month. Because it's not just creating the CO2, absorbing the CO2, people realize how they can use the CO2 as an energy. That's why they're interested, not the other way around. The new battery system will come on the back of it in the next few weeks, or what you call energy systems. In so many ways, as I was talking to our Chinese guys who are in the power transmission, I told them, you better get out of the business very quick, because you're, by researching and developing the new power systems with Keshe Foundation, you are putting the power transmissions of out of order, out of your line, so there is no need for it. You don't need to produce more kilowatts and tons of kilowatts and then ship it across the country to be used. Now small systems can do the same. And if you looked at the video, we just see the animation. If you have a dynamic plasma, creating a dynamic plasma, who needs a motor? The four wheels and the motor are the habit of man. In the universe, we don't see no motors and no four wheels. So now we are learning, and the process will change very, very rapidly. The CO2 kits, the way we have planned and the way we've seen it, I was told yesterday the total height will be 18 centimeter, double box. You don't need to do, all you need, you just collect CO2, what you extract. And then now you have your new energy system.
Mr. Keshe, there's a question that's about that in regards to that. Is a combined system possible that extracts the CO2 and poisonous metals at the same time? Or maybe poisonous
Yes,
gases, perhaps?
yes, it is possible, but understand something very simple. Until you don't understand this, you have a huge problem. Up to now, up to, let's say, a month ago, before we put the CO2 kits in the market, there was a division in the world of science, technology, and engineering. Now, for the first time, is unification. Total unification. For energy, you had to burn fuel or find a position difference. For chemical pollution and nuclear disasters, you had to find a system how another chemical to clean up. For motion, you had to find systems to be able to create motion to go. Now with the CO2 system, you have received a new way of having everything in one, but now you have to understand what you want from it, how you want from it. It's very much like a Lego box. You want to make a car out of your Legos, you have a car. You want to make a house, you make a house. So what happens? You are given the knowledge of the universe in a plasma condition, what we call a GANS. If you put magnets together, you attract magnets, you attract iron. Now we have taught you how to produce magnet for any element. Now get your CO2 according to its mass. This is very crucial. This word is very crucial. You don't need to have a copper oxide and zinc oxide and blah, blah, blah. Very soon we go only to hydrogen GANS. There's a lot of talk here how to create hydrogen GANS, and Elia has come up with a brilliant idea. It's beautiful, but it doesn't work. But what you got to understand, you don't need anything but the CO2 at this moment. How you add to the mass is decides what magnetic field you create to extract. You want the magnetic gravitational field of the gold to extract gold, add 2 plus 2 plus 4, and then you come to the gravitational magnetic field of gold. You want to extract poison, understand, measure the gravitational field of the poison, add the CO2 in a manner, or systems of CO2 in a manner that replicates that, so now you have a magnet. You want food, you want energy of the potassium, look at it, how you can do it. All you need, you receive the energy of potassium as what you want. This is what I was explaining to Armin and Marco this week. Your central pin and the mass of the GANS you put in decides what you want out of your system. You want butter or you want bread. Initially, when we had the 8 cores, 9 core reactors with the gases, I showed this, I explained, but the knowledge seekers could not understand at that moment. Now you have the possibility to put reactors in a formation that you create gravitational magnetic fields of the material which you want, that you can extract from the free plasma. Don't forget, I always say, the more you put out, the more you receive. So the central plasma, the free plasma, as it releases energy to make bread in one end, it can produce butter on the other end with another reactor. And then you put a center pin mimicking the field of the butter or the bread. And then you solidify to that level. Your plasmas will be at that level. This is what is to come. So you don't need to go and look for everything else. Try to find the correct way to use the system for what you need. You want a motion, you create gravitational magnetic field of the moon. You get attracted to it. There is no difference as you made a gravitational magnetic field of the bread. So you create the motion. You understand the rotation of the plasma as you shown in your animations. Then you decide what speed you want to run the motor, 1,000 or 10,000. As I use the beautiful phrase, which Marco loves, it says gradient. You create the right gradient, you create the right motion and the speed.
Mr. Keshe, we have one of those questions that keep popping up for many of us, which is how to measure the magnetic gravitational field of materials. And first of all, I'd say it's probably he means magnetical gravitational field of materials. That's what I think
Actually,
you would
you
argue.
have, we're trying to devise a system for it. At the moment, hopefully within the next few months we will do, I've spoken with the Italian guys who are in system control. You met Professor Letze, he was here last time, he spoke to you a couple of weeks ago. That's one of the reasons we are moving down south, to be able to have this 800 kilometers. We can't keep on flying in and out. It's easier for us to move in a position where we have, and we can collaborate with world scientists. And so this is what it will be. The tools are there. Actually, if you didn't understand how to measure it, you can measure the difference through the speed of the motion of the plasma. And you have shown it, but you don't see it. The box you showed with the plasma floating, you showed it last time and this time. If you understand what you created, how you created, and how the motion is, that motion of the plasma can be a very simple tool for you to understand. That speed, the slower is for the heavier, or heavier, higher speed is for the lighter, and you will understand how to do it. Making a system to measure it, it just needs time. We have to make the tools. We didn't have the, what I call kilometer speed measurements, because we couldn't stick it on the donkey. Now we have a car, we made a tool for it to measure the speed.
And it's more complicated than the simple measurement of the magnetic field measurements like BX, BY, BZ. It's beyond all that, isn't it?
No. Actually, the speed measurement comes with comparison. What you got to do, this is what's going to happen. It's placing detectors in different zones. And then the field will give you, the field difference will give you the speed. One of the things man has never managed to do yet, they haven't managed to measure the speed of the magnetic field of, let's say, an iron. If an iron has a magnetic property and it can attract or join, it has a speed. We have not managed to measure the speed of magnetic field. Our genius scientist who put all the problems on the hand of the physicist Einstein, he put a limitation on it. And I always ask from our colleagues, can you tell me what's the speed of magnetic field which leaves an iron magnet? How many times the speed of light?
And also, what about the speed of gravity? That's always seems to be a big mystery as well.
The speed of gravity is the same as the speed of magnetical field. Is the speed of the universe, depends on where about and what the strength of the magnetic field you are. In a plasma of a magnetic field, if I always explain, is the camera on, we can show. Yeah, let me put it on. It's okay. If you look, if this is a plasma and this is a center, can you see it?
No, we don't see it yet. It's not even spinning, so you might have to restart your camera there.
Can you see it now?
No. Anybody else?
Rick,
see?
you might need to start your video again.
Because
Okay,
of restart.
I'll try that little technique here.
Do we have to do it or you do it? You better leave it on.
No, Rick will start, and then just make sure you guys' camera is off until Rick starts.
It says my video is turned off for some reason, so maybe I can turn it on in the Skype preferences. I'm not sure if that'll work.
Hi, Vince.
I see Vince's is working, so let's see if mine does. Oh, there it goes. So if I turn it on and then back off again, that should enable, strangely enough, your camera to work now.
There it goes.
There's it.
Can you see it now?
Hey, thanks, Vince. That hint worked perfectly. We outsmarted Microsoft. Congratulations, gang.
We are learning slowly how to build the system.
Yes, that's right.
So what it is, if you get this circle as the sphere of a plasma, of a GANS, and this as a center, the order of the magnitude of the strength goes this way. It reduces that way and increases this way. Here, the order of magnitude is 10. Just below it is 10 to the power of 10. Just below that is a 10 to the power of 1,000. And then when you go slightly inner, is a power of 1,000,000. This is what you have to understand. It is totally different than what we are used to. So now, if you can create gravitational magnetic field strength of this, you are traveling at 1,000,000 times the speed of light. Because now the fields at this strength will pull and push you to a position. At the moment you are walking at here what we call the speed of sound and below. And this is what restriction Einstein has put, and God I wish he would have never written this paper. He has caused so much problem for the world of physics and space technology that's unbelievable. And everybody has accepted this rubbish and we stick to it. A plasma is like the center of the sun. When you go to the center, the plasma is stronger. So you travel at that speed. So when you want to go, this nonsense which has come, it takes 10,000 light years to get to the other planet. What we see as a star, what they call at 10,000 years, is instantaneous. But we don't want to understand it. Our body, our knowledge, our mind recognize it. So we wait for the light time expansion to come. And if you understand this, the way we show the spiral, the central spiral energy is an energy mass which the man cannot even imagine, comprehend. And then when you come to the outer rings, every ring you see, you go lower, go by a magnitude of 1,000, 3 zeros, but that's magnitude order, is not times 3. That means when you go 10 is equal 10. When you go to the 100, it means 10 with 100 zero in front of it. And this is how magnetic field work, and all you need to do is to tune to that field strength. Then you understand, because you travel at the speed is 0 time, 0 communication. This is how the new zero communication tools are developed and getting developed. Brazilians are good at it, they have understood it, and they are developing it. This is part of the Third Reich, which went to development of these things during the Hitler time and afterwards, as the German scientists moved to Brazil. This is not the Brazilian scientists as Brazilians. These are still part of the Third Reich, which have finances to do these developments. We are aware of it because we have come in touch with them, and then partially they sit in Brazilian military and security services, which is part of the structure of World Health Foundation. The understanding is to understand that the plasma, as it goes out per ring, till it gets to the field strength of its gravitational magnetical, which shows the matter surface, by the same order is reversible, by order of magnitude. If this is very hard to understand, stand on Earth and jump up. And then you see how much your gravity changes. It's an order of magnitude. The reverse is the same, but in a much, much, much stronger. When you work with gravitational and magnetical fields, then there is no mystery in the world of creation. You want to be visible at this length, you'll be visible at this length, because the plasma of the amino acids, of the atoms, of the ganses of your body carries it. Now it operates at this level, so too it is normal. Our next space you are in is this one. It's not that you're going to get destroyed, there will be no sign of you, but to the matter level where you are now, you'll be invisible because you work on a high level, because you're in a high environment. So the life will not change in the universe. And this is why one of the reasons I said I make you the fish tank, and I create the dimensions that you can see other entities of life. I promise I'll bring the soul of Christ, bless his name, that you will see. Then there is no place for Pope when the Master is available. That's how you do it. Now we understand the strength field. Now we understand the position in respect to where you want to be visible and in what respect to what matter. At this moment of time, there are numerous what you like to call UFOs. No detector can detect them and nobody can see them, because they have created a balance field around in respect to the Earth atmosphere and beyond Earth atmosphere. You see through them because they are in balance, but they actually exist and stand by. I promised Arman I show him, and he will show it. Because we don't understand it, we don't think it exists. The limitation of understanding comes from the man, not the reality of the creation. Next question. Which one?
I'm questioned out right now, and we're at just over 2.5 hours. Is there any questions on the go-to meeting, or how you doing there, Vince? Has Lucian come?
I see
come
Lucian's back.
Yes. Sorry. We have a small opposition. Just wait 1 second. We have to mute. It's something we have to sort out here. It's a good news. It's not a bad news. So.
Okay.
Do you have any elevator music, Rick?
Elevator music. Jeez. I could probably get Guy to whistle something in French. Whistle in French. How we could have whistling in different languages. That would be interesting. All I've got is things like single core.
Okay, we are back.
Nanopin reactor. Oops, I didn't get.
There
to
we
show
go.
the
Took the time. Just as good.
Reactor. Okay.
Yeah, it's no problem. We have to explain to you. You will understand. I mean, we told you. What I call the outriders of American group has just arrived. He's in the airport, so we're trying to bring him home. You got to realize if and we can, and this group of Americans who are supposed to come to the foundation, be as they deliver to be, because we see always different things when they arrive. The progress of application and implication of the foundation's technology in implementing world peace will start. These are people who say they are, and if they are who they say they are, we talked to them before. We have started the process of world peace talk indirectly, and they say, as they say, we will know very quickly. The Iranian officials are on the standby on the table as we request. They knew it, we told them, we announced it, and it's on the table. If they arrive, what I call their outrider just arrived at the airport, not very far from us. And the team is supposed to arrive in next coming days through the security, whoever they are. We know they are. And then the distribution of knowledge in application of defense for world peace starts. They are coming only for that purpose. And the condition was that in this meeting, the Iranian officials at the highest level will be present. That we talk peace as a peace, not just talk as a peace. That one can use the developments to abuse it by the others. Has he received the message? Just call him on the number. He's in the airport in Verona. Yeah, because he's using my number, it's not here. Okay, any other questions?
Yes, Mr. Keshe, this is Luciano again. I was
you're
put
back.
down.
Did you make your report to
Yeah, so
Las Almas?
no, they was putting my CPU on 100%. They shut me down. It's not a question. I was just wanted to ask to thank you for the answer, and if you consider next workshop to have like maybe a very advanced topics part of the workshop, because when you express yourself, how you are saying, as a nuclear engineer, we understand you. So sure, you have to have a part with cows and this and that, but I mean, just what you said today will enable us to have more people to help us, because I think you have quite a little not so correct perception that the scientists don't understand all these things, but mainly the Russian school is very advanced into this Coulomb barrier transparency. So people understand you much better when you stay in the scientific range. So again, thank you for today's answer.
No, it's just that you have to raise the question, otherwise it becomes like a book. It's written, but people don't understand it. And as I say, to understand what this technology is going to do, you cannot just teach and go in respect to the scientific. There are a lot of people who are not scientific, but they understand the other language of this technology, which is what it does with them. It's no use just trying to build a reactor. You got to understand if this reactor, which is a copy of you, what it's going to do with your emotions and with your feelings and what's going to give you. This is an all-purpose in one system. So you are happy with scientific because you understand that part of it. The others are happy with understanding what this means in the structure of what is important to them in their souls and their physicality and the medicine. So we try to cover everyone, otherwise this becomes another scientific science book only for geeks, as I call it. Thank you for asking questions, but at the same time we have to cover all aspects of it. Unfortunately, we never had, prophets who could teach us science up to now. If they would have taught us why Moses, bless his name, told us not to eat in the same pot as where we cook meat and milk, then everybody would now understood we don't have that problem now. And that in those days, people couldn't understand about the germs and bacteria. So when there was no glazing in the pots, so you cooked your meat at night to have dinner, and the fat stayed in the grain of the pot, and in the morning you put milk to have breakfast, and the milk went rotten. and it went sour. Because the fat which was in the crack got mixed up with the milk and spoiled the milk. So he said, have two different pots. And now, thousands of years later, if you go to a Jewish house, there are two cupboards, one for the milk, one for the meat. Now they don't understand that there is glazing, there is no mixture. In your stomach, the whole mixture will become. So now we do the explaining in detail that both the religious and the physicality understand. Next question.
Going once.
You don't have any more CNN breaking news there, Lucian?
No, the CNN is on
Go
the way.
ahead.
What's next?
I'm just curious, do you have any information about what was this material in the fridge from the previous workshop?
Here is still on the table. You can see it. Now we know 100% is GANS of a copper. We're going to put it in the reactor most probably very soon and see how it behaves. It's part of it has become matter. I don't know if you can see it. It's solidified into, it's gained enough energy to become matter. But soon we test it, we put it in the reactor and see where it comes and how it comes out. This place is full of animals and new creatures. If you come into the lab, you will see. So we'll see what comes up and how it is. There are new, smaller reactors coming into operation. The new small reactors for medical application is on its, should be here with us within the coming month or so, I hope. Then what we're going to do in what is built in or brought in from China for us to test here, we'll go in conjunction with our scientists in Italian for control system that we build the first, what you call, a dynamic chair for different diseases. This should be, hopefully, if we can get it right, by early spring, summer, we should be able to put the first seat out that for any disease you go to, if you got a liver cancer, we operate the part which is to do with the liver. And if you have, let's say, the pancreas cancer, the system sets for the operation of the pancreas. There's a lot of developments to come. There are a lot of PhDs to be made with the Keshe Foundation, and that's why in the coming month we will give masters for people to come and research into this and write papers that others can understand. The system for medical side, the first batch, what we call the paint pads, Dr. Elia calls them, should be available in the next 2 weeks. But the design, everything will come from China, but it'll go through the Keshe Foundation website and most probably eBay and the rest of the international marketing situation. The launch has started. We have started our program to bring everything at the same time to everyone. And the prices will be kept literally low enough that everybody can afford it. And we foresee with our Italian colleagues here in the next few weeks when we meet, health center system based. It takes maybe up to 2 years to fully program it to be done. So you are given a health card. If in the card says you got a cancer, you just put in the chair. It knows what to program and which reactors has to come at what strength, plasmatic gravitational field, to sort out the position of the plasma. It needs a more detail, but we practiced it. We've done it through static reactors for nearly 10, 14 years. Now, as I told you, we are getting ready to bring it, and we come across people who can do it, and I'm sure other scientists around the world will join in very rapidly to be part of the development. We'll show the chairs and the systems as they come. So these chairs, a number of them already are around the world. Different people have tried it for different things. Some has been successful and some not, because we could not create the right fields due to the instrumentation not being available. Now with the dynamic plasmas, we can replicate everything exactly. So the benefit will be, as you go to sunbed shops to get suntan, very soon you go to the shops where you get your treatment or the processing of your body. And we were used to tablets, now we use the energy of the tablets in the plasmatic form. And you don't need to go, the diagnosis is done, it goes on your card, you put a card like a credit card into the machine, and the machine will set for what it has to do. This is the process. It doesn't mean we're eliminating doctors or pharmaceuticals, but now our technology is for deeper space, not for the man, but they can benefit by it. Any other question?
I have a quick question. Mill is here.
Good morning, Lord Mill. I thought you're frozen in the ice of Canada. You were very
Yeah,
quiet.
sort of. Yeah, it's pretty cold here. But I'm going in Palma in a week, so I will be close to you. I have couple of customers for these cups of life. Are they gonna be manufactured anytime soon?
I have a few million people want the cups of life. We have shown the set to our Chinese colleagues. Actually, they drank from it. They were very interested to drink from it. In the coming weeks, we will release a cup of life. But the cup of life, if you go to the dynamic, is not necessarily, but is there for a backup. I use them still because of the poisoning on a regular basis. The poison has not gone out of my body, but we are controlling it through these kind of things.
Are they gonna be useful for sick people, like people which are with lack of energy and stuff?
I'm not going to say that because our Chinese Keshe Foundation are literally using it, praying to it, drinking before prayer. They do it in different ways. I think our Chinese, what do you call it, contingency of the Keshe Foundation will, what do you call it, will tell us more about these things because they're real heavily at it. Like the growth of the vegetation. Has he got the message? Has he received the message? He's going to the hotel. Okay, thanks. So the cup of life are there. The formation is there. I'll try to bring it to show it tomorrow in the health program. I've set it in a specific formation, and it has to be in that you absorb every angle and you to interact to be.
My customers are mainly people which really need extra energy, sick people, so that's why I'm asking.
At the moment we will release these. It's got to be done. It's a set of 9, and it'll be done through China. But at the moment, we have promised our Chinese colleagues 1 product per week, and the next week, 2 weeks, something like 10 or 15 items goes on the shopping list. I think eBay and Alibaba will love the Keshe Foundation. We have to buy some shares.
Okay.
Harwan is laughing. He says, what about my reactor? It'll be free. Let me explain to you something very interesting. I was talking to the officials in the past few days, and I could see the shiver on their back. At the moment, this is coming so fast because it's in public, you cannot stop it. Now everybody is making the reactors, we do the thing. As I said this before, I repeat myself. You manufacture an item in Shanghai, ship it to the port to, let's say, US or European port, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, to the market, another week, 2 weeks, 3 months lapse. With this technology and the cheapness of it, you manufacture product in Shanghai, let's say, you put in the container, fit it with the system, half an hour later, where would you like it? Washington, New York, Paris? This is what the drone which, what do you call it? No, yeah, the Amazon is trying to do, and I advise them, please don't go so fast, because you'll have a system which costs nothing and doesn't cause any problem. This is what is one of the reasons we work with the governments, or try to get the governments to understand. Borders, nationalities are over. How many Chinese would like in the middle of Washington, and how many people from Nigeria you want in front of the White House? Because once it goes, it becomes fashionable to go anywhere. So we better bring peace and equality that nobody needs to know, unless it's for to go for sightseeing. One of the biggest nightmares is for the people who make fridges and freezers. Now you don't understand. Soon it'll be a joke. We keep a fridge. But it's been part of our development. The biggest problem at the moment, as I spoke with, I told you before, with the Belgium, what do you call it, police, is that we wanted to test the car. We need a fast, clean road to do. But you cannot have hovering car in the cities of today. There are too many cables, there are too many bridges. What would you like to hit? So the only option at the moment to use these cars, this technology in the present structure of the cities, is to reduce the weight to minimum of 200 kilograms, which has been done some work with the Ghent University. One is, the first is a lot of old people, a lot of people don't like to be off the ground, they like to have a foot on the ground. And secondly, crosswinds and other things makes 200 kilogram viable proposition for a mass. So if you have a 10-ton, you adjust your reactors to reduce weight, as you see now in the live stream, or increase weight at a point of arrival. And every car will weigh 200 kilogram. Then it comes how you want to use the energy, or you want to use a blow fans to blow yourself like a feather. I think the new generation will fly, and the old generation will literally dive in the ground and stick to where it is with the four-wheelers. We don't have the structure, civil structure, to handle flying cars. But we can, the only places we can do is in space and across the oceans at the moment. Or we go to a higher altitude and the tunnels are full. It'll be no time, they will be full in every direction. And you don't want to have a car which goes wrong on the top to drop on the top of you. So flying cars, which a lot of people are waiting, will be weight reducing cars. People talk big till you put them in there and they have to swing at high speed between Washington and New York. It's not the aircraft, you go at 800, 900 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers. So the changes are heavy, and with this way there is no borders. And as I said, the border position and customs are over. So we have to find peace amongst ourselves, that we are equal and don't abuse, and we don't need people to get on the boats to get from one point to another to escape abuse and get drowned on the way. These people now, they won't get drowned, they land in front of our houses and they want what we have, and that's their right. I just heard, I was asking Rick before, there is somebody or organizer or a few people, they call themselves Cuba Keshe Foundation. Even Cuba has a Keshe Foundation. We know Nigeria has, we are aware of 102 Keshe Foundation group individuals call themselves Keshe Foundations around the world, different nations. So it's well spread, and they all would like and be part of the ethos of the Keshe Foundation. So we have started making change. No organization has grown so fast, so rapidly the way we have done, because we have reached and touched the soul of the man. And the pocket financially soon. Any other question?
Just a small notice in between. My car is about 700 kilograms, and when the wind blows here, it moves it in the other line. So if the car is lighter as a kilograms, probably it's gonna be the worst. So.
You can make system. We tested this 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I tested the system. You can create gravitational balance, which means you always keep at 200 and you can go against the wind in a field direction.
Isn't that the idea of the positive positioning aspect? It would be in one position.
It's not a horizontal positioning, because our system downstairs is a tree. You have to create a vertical, which is an animal, what do you call it, gravitational field for sideway. As the wind comes, or if you get hit, you don't want to be thrown at 200 kilometers against the other side of the street. It's an immediate reaction that it creates a balanced field force. It's a technique that needs to be developed. I've tested it. It looks good, but it has to. It's a servo system, and it's very simple to make it. But we got to see how it goes. Don't forget, a lot of scientists who work with us are benefiting by the system, but they never talk. The professors in Ghent University who work with us on the nanomaterials, they build for themselves in their houses systems to warm up the water in their houses. They call it the nano GANS solar system. So already scientists, the professors, I think he must be head of department by now in the university, because he was assistant head of department. He built a system for hot water for his home. I tell you a story, you laugh, but it's good to know for history. When I came back from Iran, the Iranian government, they gave me the reactor. So when I was invited to the office of the Prime Minister of Belgium, Dirk and I, we went with the reactor. They could not believe our openness. When we went to the Ministry of Energy, they asked us to meet in the morning and go and see the office of the Prime Minister in the afternoon. We literally went with the reactor to show how simple it is. That's how we've been open, but it's been denied the openness of. When we went to Boeing, we took the reactor with us. They wouldn't let it come in the building. We had to show it outside. Dirk has taken pictures of it. They brought 2 or 3 of top tier engineers from around Europe to see, and it was put on the pavement. That's how much fear of what it's going to do with them. Now every man has one. We think possible. We have to see how we go in the next few months. The Keshe Foundation manufacturing site in China will put out the oyster system as rapidly as we can. There are a few bits to be done. That you have the energy, the water, the food, and the shelter at the same time. We're just waiting for you lot to catch up. Once we catch up, we release it. Cost will be about around $25 to $50.
There was a question about, is there a way to put the worldwide foundations on a list in the forum?
We need, as I asked, we need to know who's responsible, that people can get in touch with their own foundation.
Okay, we can put a notice of that on the Facebook as well, and make an appeal.
There is a need for people to support, like the way you do and Vince does and Amrak does with the website. We need people to take over the organization for themselves with different nationalities or languages, that they can communicate and understand. So if you're Chinese or if you're Japanese or wherever you are, you want to know what's happening, where you can get things, you go to the Keshe Foundation on the website, tick up and see who's responsible and put your names up for it to do it. Please let me explain something. Do not abuse the name of the Keshe Foundation for your own benefits. I saw Italian Keshe Foundation, and I thought, how come there's Italian Keshe Foundation? So I called the Italian Keshe Foundation, and the guy says, I'm Italian Keshe Foundation. I said, but who is this? I am the Italian Keshe Foundation. I said, who has told you? Because I run it, I'm the Italian Keshe Foundation. I said, I'm Mr. Keshe. Can you tell me who gave you the authorization? But I am. So I said, okay, if it's your right to be, to be. So people are setting up their own. In some countries, there are 2 or 3 Keshe Foundation. Try to become one. Any other question? We're nearly 3 hours.
I think we should end things
Mr.
now
Keshe?
and reserve some questions for next time.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow we have the health with Dr. Elia with regarding the eye and emotionality.
Yes, and the health workshops are always very interesting as well.
Yeah, there's some interesting guys there who talk a lot. There is a position we try to shut down only with one teaching during the 3 weeks of the holiday season. So we have to agree which one. We most probably keep the Thursday mornings as usual if it's okay with everyone, and we close on the others for 3rd, 4th of week of December and the 1st and 2nd week of January. Because the knowledge seekers are not here, we shut down totally. But I keep the, what do you call it, the Keshe Foundation Thursday mornings going till we come back. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Keshe.
Thanks very much.
And so ends the 39th Keshe Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Another good workshop.
To join us on live stream.
Okay, thank you, Vince, and thanks to everyone to helped out here and to all the listeners.
Okay, I'm not